first sat for a real ECM transaction at Deutsche Bank, what was the thought that crossed your mind that this was not taught to me in my textbooks when I was doing all of these degrees?
Theory gets you till 30 or 40% of the things. Everything is what you are learning on the job.
Why did you think that finance education in the country needs some fixing?
The colleges which are not revamping their curriculum every 2 or 3 years, they are lagging.
What is the relationship that people have with money? And how far is that from what the economists have been telling us?
As a wealth manager, be it when you are dealing with a retail investor or you are dealing with an HNI, you need to be very careful about
how an undergrad finance curriculum should look like.
I would want sneak peek into the practical world. I need an education program which actually teaches me the theoretical concepts well, but top it with a practical understanding.
One last piece of advice which you would want to leave for all the 19, 18-year-olds watching this podcast. Today's guest is someone who has lived finance from every angle, not just studied it, but lived it. He started his career as an investment banker with Deutsche Bank, working on landmark M&A and ECM transactions across India and Australia. He then moved on into private wealth management, joined Edelweiss, managed portfolios of HNIs, ultra HNIs, PE, VCs, and then jumped straight into the startup world with Wealthdesk, which eventually got acquired by PhonePe. His last stint was with PhonePe, where he headed the business and content for Indian equities. On top of all of this, he is a CFA charter holder, a CMT charter holder, and an MBA from IIM Indore. He has been trading into derivatives since very, very long out of his own capital. Right now, he is the founder of Capital Quill, where he teaches, writes, and consults at the intersection of education and Indian equities. I'm bringing him on today because at Masters Union, we are launching an undergraduate program in finance and economics. And he has sat on both the sides, educating people and on the trading floor. So welcome, Vaibhav. You have done your MBA from IIM Indore. You are a CFA and a CMT charter holder. But when you first sat for a real, ECM transaction at Deutsche Bank, what was the thought that crossed your mind that, hey, this was not taught to me during my, in my textbooks when I was doing all of these degrees?
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. So as you mentioned that, kind of my first career was starting from Deutsche, but in the Australian desk. So I remember, Juhi, the first trade which I did was for the Australian Real Estate Investment Trust, which we call as REITs. Now, I guess a lot of people know what REITs are. But that was back in 2015 or 16 I'm talking about, when REITs were unheard of in India. 2019, I think first REIT got listed in India. So for me, it was a new economy, new geography, new sector, which we had not studied in our MBA colleges and all. But the good point was that in CFA, because it focuses on the global, kind of education written by US professors and all, I had understood what REIT was. But that only, added up for the theoretical knowledge which I had. Since you're asking about how was the first live experience, sitting on a deal, theory gets you till, let's say, 30 or 40% of the things. Otherwise, everything is what you are learning on the job. When you enter any job, not only investment banking, but anywhere, your first client is not the real client. I was not allowed, or juniors are not directly allowed to talk to the clients in the starting. So anybody's first client is basically their managers or the directors and all. So it was all about making them happy. And this is where I was, kind of understanding with their knowledge that you need to understand, okay, you are building a DCF model, you're doing comparable analysis, multiples method, this and that. But that was not it. That was something a junior guy is expected to build quite well. But ultimately, what are the inputs that are going into the picture? What is the eventual client's requirement is? And that client's requirements actually drills down to my client, which was my directors and all. So that is what made it a little complex. Theoretically, it really helped me what I studied. But as I said, that was just 30-40% of what I did.
Very truly said, Weber. So do you think today's, finance graduates, be it BCom, MBA, CFA, are they better prepared in any sense versus when we did it?
Definitely. The gap is closing. And the reason for that, Juhi, is, when I did my MBA like 10, 15 years back, there was actually a lot of lethargy in changing the curriculum. There was no AI. There was hardly any social media. There was no influencer kind of thing, which are keeping people on toes, kind of what is happening in the real world, because now everybody is trying to share what they have learned just, kind of last day or today. That also helps in, kind of keeping the education industry on toes, because it's a lot more competitive.
Yeah.
Everybody has been teaching theory since time immemorial, since the time this college education and all has started. But now there are colleges, there are coaching institutes who are, kind of overlaying it with what is happening in the real world. So I would definitely say the students are more agile. There's a lot more, exponential rise in kind of the knowledge needed in the outside world, that the colleges which are not changing their curriculum are actually lagging. And this is where, kind of I see that what students are learning now, they are far better, and, kind of they speed up their knowledge in terms of the real practical outside world gyan that they need.
So there's a need to sort of revamp the curriculum.
100%. I mean, the colleges which are not revamping their curriculum every, let's say, even 2 or 3 years, they are lagging. 2010 or 11, if we speak about that time, things, as we said, that they were not changing as fast as now it is changing. Now every other day you see Anthropic coming out with a new, kind of a tool or something.
Yeah.
So today, if you launch a 4-year course or a 3-year course, I mean, it is very difficult for even the practitioners or even the academicians to think about what will be relevant 3 or 4 years down the line.
Yeah.
And that is why getting more and more industry experts and practitioners to, kind of bring some kind of inputs as to what the curriculum should be like, that is very important. And because of this is happening, I see that the gap is actually closing faster than that should be.
And that is where the role of an education institution also comes into the picture. So they have to also mold their curriculum in a way which we have been trying to do, that with every course that we teach, what % of this course can still be done with AI? Like which AI tool can sort of enable the learning faster?
Yes.
And we're trying to, bring that in every course that we launch.
See, honestly, 2-3 years back, education institutes or even the corporates, they were like, AI use kiya hai, AI nahi use karna hai. But now with over the time, like in just 2-3 years back, people have understood that it is inevitable. You can speed up your work. You have to use AI. And this is where the adoption has started increasing. Not only the corporate, but even the educational institutions. You are rightly saying the curriculum which actually, kind of takes cues and get the AI to augment your learning, that will only survive. Probably you are no more reading a 30-page case study from, kind of a paper-based format.
Yeah.
So, the faster you evolve, the better you would be.
Absolutely. Now you've managed, north of $20 million worth of, portfolio for HNIs and new HNIs. When you were making those decisions for those clients, which part of the process you think was never taught by a textbook or could never be taught today also? Like, is there something that you felt when you were closing deals, you were managing such larger portfolio, which portion was never taught by a textbook?
90% portion was not taught by the text, because see, when you are managing money or when you are facing the client, one thing which can not be replaced by AI is your relationship. Absolutely. Right? When you are managing such a huge amount for your clients, it's very important to manage people well, manage your clients well. So I had almost about 20 odd clients at the peak when I was with Edelweiss, and you can say almost everybody had a different persona. Right. As a wealth manager, you need to understand what persona actually the client has, and accordingly you need to tweak yourself. No book will ever teach you. It will only be the experience. Now, I'll give you some real examples. Like, there would be clients with the maximum AUM. They would be very brutal. Like, there are some clients who are very brutal, and especially those who had a lot of, kind of investable surplus. And when I say brutal, it does not mean rude or something. It just means that they know that this is the tasks, they need to get it done, stick to the point, get it done, and then obviously they have other meetings. Then there are other people also who are very friendly, who would, kind of sit with you for an hour and two and then understand what the process is. They want to learn as well. So you need to be flexible as a wealth manager to understand what different people actually want. And your books, your curriculum will teach you what kind of theoretical knowledge you need to have. But ultimately, the clients don't need to, they have hired you because they don't want to get into all these things. So that is where I say that, most of the conversations which you are doing is actually you are basing your conversations, theoretical aspects, based on theory you have studied. But when you are communicating it to the client, it is not taught in any books.
And that's why I think in holistic development, right at the start is really, really important, where you not only
Yes.
focus on the concepts and the practical application, but also focus on other soft skills, say, for example, which can drive, your career for the longer term. At Wealthdesk and Share.market, Vaibhav, you were sort of managing, democratizing investing for retail investors
Yeah.
and Indians, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you think, because you must have interacted with a lot of retail investors,
Mhm.
how do you think, what is the relationship that people have with money?
Hmm.
And how far is that from what we have been learning or what the economists have been telling us? Uh, what do people actually think about money when it comes to investing, maybe?
See, HNI investors, let's say someone would have a 10 crore investment with me, and market falls by 10%, their portfolio falls by 10%, they lost 1 CR. They will not be that perturbed. I mean, they are like, okay, I understand it's a market, it's okay. They will ask less questions. They will not be that much of, irritating you as a wealth manager. But a retail investor who might have put in 10 lakhs, if his portfolio falls by 10%, loses 1 lakh, his world collapses, and he will be after your life as to what have you made us invest into, this and that. Both of these things have one thing common, is basically nobody is actually focusing on what the valuation model is saying. When you are asking me about the interaction I am doing with the retail investors, they are not particularly bothered about what my DCF model has thrown me a number, or what my multiples method, or what Nifty PE is trading at, etc. So talking to them is completely based on what the behavioral biases actually tell you about. And this is where I want to also bring a point that, kind of in schools, colleges, postgrad, undergrad, when we are even CFA, CMT, we are thinking about the theory. Fundamental analysis is there, quantitative analysis, technical analysis, but ultimately most of the money is lost or made using behavioral biases. And behavioral finance, behavioral biases is actually taught at a lot of places. In fact, it has started being taught at a lot of places, especially masters colleges like Masters Union. But ultimately, it's the biases which retail investors or even HNI show, which actually makes or breaks, kind of his portfolio. And when someone has outsourced it to you, just like what I was doing at Edelweiss, the HNIs had outsourced their wealth management to me. It is my behavioral biases which is actually, kind of guiding the ultimate wealth of the client well. Retail investors, I wasn't talking to a lot of them as a part of my job, is simple reason that in India, see, ultimately, how are wealth managers making money? Let's say they charge X percentage of the AUM they are managing. When the AUM is large enough, let's say 10 CR, right? Charging 1% would make it, at least 10 lakhs a year. But when the retail investor is putting in a 10 lakh rupees, not many people would be, personally in the offline mode would be happy to talk to the client again and again just for a mere 1%, which is 10,000
Yeah.
rupees. That is why in India, lot of this retail wealth is being democratized, and उसको digitally थोड़ा सा हम लोग play कर रहे हैं, right? And when you're dealing with this money digitally, you're not talking to the clients on an everyday basis. This somehow also leads the retail investors to think कि अगर मुझे personally एक wealth manager चाहिए, then I need to obviously, kind of rise up in my career, so kind of afford that.
Yeah.
But having said that, lot of these retail investors would try to tap on the customer help desk or the support of your, kind of company whenever he needs a certain kind of assistance, and we there's a team which actually, used to give that. अगर उनका प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं होगा तो these are the people who go on Twitter and, start complaining about. I would rather say with my experience that 50% of the complaints are obviously they are genuine, and the remaining 50% are just useless. People are just ranting out of because they have a tool in place in their hands. And this is where, it becomes a little tricky to manage these kind of retail investors, and this is where no theory or no models will teach you. It is, again, as I said, it's the soft skills, that how you are dealing with your clients, how you, be it an HNI, be it an retail investors. Because one thing is for sure, Juhi, money is important for everybody, right? If a retail investor has put in 10 lakhs, it is his life, right? It might be his life savings. Similarly for an HNI, but that number might be 10 CR. As a wealth manager, be it when you are dealing with a retail investor or you are dealing with an HNI, you as a wealth manager need to be very careful about very actually empathetic about कि यार उसका पैसा है, उसको कैसा लग रहा होगा if he is losing that. So again, these are all relationship skills. These are all soft skills beyond DCF models and everything.
Vaibhav, you've now moved to teaching through Capital Quill and Vaibhav Jain classes, right? What made you do that switch, A? And B, why did you think that finance education in the country right now needs some fixing?
See, one thing I understood quite early in my career, in fact, not in my career, even from the college days, is that I love teaching, right? But of course, before taking that plunge, I needed to have some kind of an industry experience in order to know more about how businesses function and all that. And that is why about 13 years of corporate experience. Lately, last year, I started 2 of my companies, Vaibhav Jain classes, where I teach offline and online courses. And then there's Capital Quill, where I help corporates actually, kind of build insightful and engaging content. Now, in my last role, Juhi at Share.Market by PhonePe, I was heading content and education both. And both of these are my passion. And this is where the 2 different companies I came up with. That's the reason that, I switched from, made a switch from corporate life to a startup. Now, why education and what kind of differentiation probably I'm bringing in is that I am completely against 100% theoretical thing. कि आप पढ़ो, exam pass करो और get a certificate, get a degree, and then leave the student for learning on the job. So what I am trying to bring in is how the implementation of whatever they are learning in theory is getting practically useful. And this is where I'm bringing my 12-13 years of corporate experience. A lot of faculties, professors, academicians, or even the people who have started coaching, I've seen that they are pretty good with how they teach. They're pretty good with their concepts and all, but they lack an industry experience. And this is where I'm blending both of them and putting forth for the students. On the content agency thing, what I realized when I was working with the PhonePe Share.Market is that there are not a lot of content agencies in India which are very finance focused or finance based. Their text or their video, their scripts had a lot of errors because they did not understand how the markets actually function. So this is where I found that there is a, there's an evident gap over there. And this is where I'm bringing in my theoretical plus practical experience and bringing a complete holistic solution for the clients.
Wonderful. Vaibhav, if you were given the responsibility to redesign how an undergrad finance curriculum should look like, right? Which you might have wished for yourself when you were doing your MBA or your undergrad, right? What would you do? And how would you incorporate those in the curriculum aspect?
I would want sneak peek into the practical world. During those days and even today, a lot of colleges actually just focus on the grades, just focus on marks. Exam hai, aapko dena hai, jiska bhi number aaya, CGPA, SGPA and all those kind of things. But ultimately, what are they learning? See, Juhi, I've always felt that's the problem in Indian education system, not only a particular college or something, that we focus a lot on the rote learning. Rat ke chale jao and, apply the formula and get the answer. We are worried a lot about what the beta final value should be. Is it 1.13 or 1.15, just for an example? But in the real world, it does not matter. If it is above 1, you make a certain decision. If it is above 2, you make a certain decision. But यहाँ पे marks लाने के लिए you have to be very accurate. I need an education program which actually teaches me the theoretical concepts well, but top it with a practical understanding that इसका use का है, right? See, basically what we study in school and maybe in my engineering, I am not using it much because obviously I have not gone that way. But a lot of things which we actually study, even in engineering, someone has actually opted that path. A lot of things are never used. A lot of things like, okay, we are not using differential equation, for example, in our current jobs. And we are not ever taught in school also what differential equation ka final, the use case might be. So you are asking about undergrad, I am even taking myself back to even school level. I mean, if you are teaching something, just tell what their final, use case is in the practical world. This is where I would probably like to, change things a bit in my, in whatever I'm designing, be it an MBA course or a undergrad course or even school course.
Absolutely. And, this is the ethos with which we have built all our undergrad courses and, postgrad courses in the past. And this is the ethos which we are going to follow in our undergrad in finance and economics.
Sure.
We have already gone through it.
Yeah.
And I think what you mentioned, like concepts are important. Theory is still important. That serves 30-40%.
Yeah.
But the rest, the gap, the remainder is to be filled by practical application, and that also serves two purposes. So with our curriculum, what we are trying to do is you learn inside and you apply outside. How we have reimagined the practical application is giving all the finance students a sneak peek into how each and every role in finance will look like, right? So
Yeah.
we have an outclass challenge which tries to mimic how what an investment banking analyst is supposed to do when
Okay.
he or she joins an investment banking
Sure.
firm, right? Similarly, a wealth management firm, somebody who joins a wealth management firm, what's the expected outcome? This also helps the student make an informed decision about which career in finance they would want to take, right? Like, when we were doing our MBA, Vaibhav, we were probably told, this is a good role.
Yeah.
Go into it. And we would realize probably that role was not meant for us because we just heard some stories from seniors and we were not completely informed about what that role entails. But if in our time something would have been designed in a way that would give us a sneak peek into, what a day-to-day in that role will look like, probably we would have made wiser decisions and, informed decisions. So that's what we are trying to do with our number of outclass challenges that we have, sort of spanned through the 4 years of our undergrad journey, so that a student can also make an informed decision, and we also give them a real life perspective into how finance and how finance roles look like post they graduate from master's unit.
So that's a very interesting point, Juhi, and brilliant to hear this, that these are the initiatives which Masters Union is taking. One thing which you touched about was that most of the time in our colleges, what kind of roles are out there are told by the seniors.
Yeah.
And seniors are also just 1 year senior to you. I mean, if we remove the
Absolutely.
experience part
Yeah.
or something, ultimately they also don't know a lot of stuff. I mean, they are, if the seniors has already started their journey, they are junior analyst in their company, right? They also might not have that kind of a vision as to what 20 years down the line this role might be. So it is very important if kind of practitioners come and guide the curriculum itself right from the very scratch for the undergrads, that this is how your roles might be. It is good that if we are kind of giving
Providing
the
that
students
platform to the
right from the
students.
very scratch. So that's
Yeah.
pretty good.
So you just mentioned that, practitioners coming and teaching, right? So at Masters Union, we have that philosophy of, more than 50% of the course is taken up by practitioners
Yeah.
who are in industry professionals come and teach inside the classroom. Does this resonate with you? Like, does this concept resonate with you? And would you wish for something like this would have existed when you were probably doing your MBA?
100%, 100%. I mean, see, I've taught a lot of courses already at Masters Union,
Yeah.
and I've been teaching a lot of courses at other B schools, including IIMs and all. One thing which I realize is that what practitioners kind of bring in is that they'll cut the noise, they'll cut the crap, they'll only focus on probably what they would have been doing over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years in their jobs. When kind of a professor teaches, nothing against the academicians, the professors, obviously they have got a great knowledge about the subject they are teaching. But somewhere I feel that a lot of professors don't understand that how fast the world is changing or what is needed in the practical world. They will give all the kind of theoretical concepts to the student, but ultimately कितना उसमें जाके आप execute और implement कर रहे हो, so that they lack. I would not say that kind of and you're very good that 50% is only the practitioners. I would not say that 100% also should be taught by practitioner, because ultimately वो फिर आपका lot of times they will skip the theoretical base what the professor might be kind of building. So it's a very good blend that a practitioner is coming in, sitting with the academician, sitting with the in-house professor maybe, and then developing the curriculum. The theoretical part can be taught by maybe in-house faculties, and then top it up by the practitioner coming from the real world scenario.
We're in our closing segments now, Vaibhav. So, one last piece of advice which you would want to leave for all the 19, 18-year-olds watching this podcast and, wanting to build a career, a serious career in finance, which probably you think if someone would have told me before I joined Deutsche Bank, would have been wonderful.
Few things which I could have, kind of added to my skill set was, one thing which I would suggest people is to open up, network a lot. Right now, I've seen 18, 19-year-olds, they are completely engrossed with their own mobiles and laptops, and they don't like to go out and talk to a lot of people, kind of finance janta anyways is introvert, and then you add all these things, they become more introvert. But I have with my career understood that how important it is to understand other people's mind, and that will only happen when you talk to them face to face, not on your WhatsApp or your Instagram or LinkedIn. So first advice is basically that start going out, talk to people. And the second thing is basically be very flexible enough, be curious. Don't be adamant that मैंने तो ये सोच लिया यही करना है, because world is changing very fast and there are careers, there are things becoming obsolete every day. So that's a second point, probably. Maybe 20-30 years back, if someone had a particular skill, he would have kind of पूरा 40 साल का अपना करियर उसमें निकाल सकते थे, बट आज ऐसा नहीं हो रहा. So you have to keep on upskilling yourself, so be flexible with that as well. So these are pretty much two things which I would, on the soft skill thing, I would suggest people. And one hard skill thing which I would generally tell people is to, whenever you are analyzing any company, because it's a finance podcast and I would rather focus a little more on investment side, whenever someone is analyzing a company, before getting into the numbers, ratios and everything, just understand what the business is all about, understand the business story, and then try to kind of tie it up with what is required in the outside world. I mean, if you are analyzing a certain company जो पता है कि 2 साल बाद redundant हो सकती है, and this is where the skill set which probably you can have, that okay, I don't think so that after 2 or 3 years this company might be working, but the industry might be redundant. So this kind of a skill set also should be developed at the early stage in your late teenage ages.
Thank you so much, Vaibhav, for having such an insightful and informative discussion with me. I am sure people who are watching are going to learn a lot from your own journey and probably take the piece of advices that you've left for them.
Thank
and
you
build
so
on
much.
great careers in finance.
Thanks so much, Juhi, for inviting me for this. It was my pleasure.